The early 20th century was a time of great uncertainty and tension in Europe. The continent was a mosaic of powerful empires and emerging nations, each with its own ambitions and fears. A complex web of factors contributed to a powder keg of unrest, ready to explode. Political instability, economic competition, and social upheaval were all part of this volatile mix. Militarism, a focus on building strong armed forces, was on the rise. Nations invested heavily in their military capabilities, believing that a powerful military was essential for national security and prestige. Powerful nations like Germany, France, and Great Britain engaged in an arms race, expanding their armies and navies. This competition for military superiority created an atmosphere of mutual suspicion and fear. This fostered suspicion and fear among the nations. Each country viewed its neighbors with distrust, worried that they might be preparing for war. Adding to the tension were the numerous alliances formed between the European powers. These alliances were intended to provide security and deter aggression, but they also created a fragile balance of power. These alliances, meant to provide security, created a dangerous situation where an attack on one nation could quickly escalate into a wider conflict. The interconnected nature of these alliances meant that a local dispute could draw in multiple countries. The Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, stood against the Triple Entente of France, Russia, and Great Britain. These two powerful blocs were in a constant state of tension, each wary of the other's intentions. These alliances, like tripwires, ensured that any conflict would quickly draw in multiple nations. The intricate web of treaties and agreements meant that a single spark could set off a chain reaction. Imperialism, the pursuit of colonial empires, also played a significant role in the road to war. European powers were eager to expand their influence and control over foreign territories. European powers competed for territories in Africa and Asia, leading to increased rivalry and mistrust. The scramble for colonies was not just about land, but also about resources and strategic advantage. This competition for resources and dominance on the world stage created an atmosphere of hostility among the European powers. The desire to build vast empires often led to conflicts and confrontations in distant lands. Finally, nationalism, a strong sense of pride and devotion to one's nation, further fueled the flames of conflict. Nationalist fervor was on the rise, with people increasingly identifying with their nation rather than their local region or empire. In the Balkans, a region of diverse ethnicities and national identities, nationalist aspirations clashed with existing empires. The desire for independence and self-determination among various ethnic groups created a highly volatile situation. This volatile mix of nationalism and imperial ambition made the Balkans a tinderbox, ripe for igniting a larger conflict. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914 was the spark that set this tinderbox ablaze, leading to the outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie on June 28, 1914, provided the spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe. This tragic event marked a pivotal moment in history, setting off a series of events that would lead to one of the deadliest conflicts the world had ever seen. The assassination took place in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, by Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist. Princip was a member of the Black Hand, a secret society committed to ending Austro-Hungarian rule in the Balkans. His actions were driven by a fervent desire for Serbian independence and unity. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the assassination, issued an ultimatum with harsh demands. The ultimatum was designed to be unacceptable, giving Austria-Hungary a pretext to go to war. The demands included allowing Austro-Hungarian officials to participate in the investigation and suppress anti-Austrian propaganda. Serbia, backed by Russia, attempted to negotiate, but Austria-Hungary was determined on war. The Serbian government agreed to most of the demands, but sought clarification on a few points, hoping to avoid conflict. However, Austria-Hungary saw this as an opportunity to assert its dominance in the region. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, setting off a chain reaction that quickly engulfed Europe in war. The declaration of war was met with a mix of fear and anticipation across the continent as alliances and treaties began to pull other nations into the conflict. Russia, obligated by its alliance with Serbia, began mobilizing its army. The Russian Empire, with its vast resources and manpower, posed a significant threat to Austria-Hungary and its allies. The mobilization was a clear signal that Russia was prepared to defend its Slavic ally. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, viewed the Russian mobilization as a threat and declared war on Russia on August 1, 1914. Germany's military strategy, known as the Schlieffen Plan, called for a quick victory in the west before turning to the Eastern Front. This plan required swift and decisive action. France, bound by its treaty with Russia, was drawn into the conflict when Germany declared war on August 3rd. The French government, aware of the growing tensions, had already begun preparing its military forces. The declaration of war brought a sense of urgency and determination to the French people. Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium, a violation of international law, prompted Great Britain to declare war on Germany on August 4th. The invasion of Belgium was a strategic move by Germany to bypass the heavily fortified French border. However, it also brought Great Britain into the war, further escalating the conflict. Within a week, the major powers of Europe were at war. The intricate web of alliances and treaties had turned a regional conflict into a global war. The world watched in shock and disbelief as nations mobilized their armies and prepared for a conflict that would reshape the course of history. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand had, like a spark igniting dried tinder, set the world aflame. The events that followed would lead to unprecedented destruction and loss of life, forever changing the political and social landscape of Europe and the world. The Western Front, a line of battle stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland, became the defining theater of World War I. This extensive front line was the stage for some of the most grueling and intense battles in history. It was here that a new form of warfare emerged: trench warfare. The soldiers on both sides found themselves entrenched in a brutal and unyielding struggle, where the landscape was transformed into a maze of trenches and fortifications. Trench warfare was characterized by the construction of deep, complex trench systems. These trenches were not just simple ditches, they were elaborate networks designed to provide maximum protection and strategic advantage. Both sides dug elaborate trench systems, protected by barbed wire, machine guns, and artillery. The trenches were fortified with sandbags, wooden planks, and other materials to withstand the relentless bombardments. Attacks across this desolate no-man's land often resulted in heavy casualties for minimal gains. The area between opposing trenches, known as no man's land, was a deadly expanse filled with barbed wire, landmines, and the constant threat of enemy fire. The Battle of the Marne, in September 1914, marked the end of Germany's hopes for a quick victory in the West. This pivotal battle forced the German army to retreat and set the stage for the prolonged and grueling trench warfare that would define the Western Front. It settled into a bloody stalemate, with neither side able to achieve a decisive breakthrough. The soldiers faced harsh conditions, including waterlogged trenches, freezing temperatures, and the constant threat of enemy attacks. The Battle of Verdun, fought throughout 1916, became a symbol of the war's brutality. This battle, one of the longest and costliest in history, saw both sides suffer immense losses with little to show for their efforts. Both sides endured horrific casualties for little strategic gain. The relentless fighting and the sheer scale of the destruction left a lasting impact on the soldiers and the landscape. The Battle of the Somme, launched by the British and French in July 1916, was intended to break the stalemate, but became another costly failure. The initial bombardment failed to destroy the German defenses, leading to a devastating loss of life. Millions of soldiers fought and died in the trenches of the Western Front, caught in a war of attrition that seemed to have no end. The relentless cycle of attack and counterattack drained the resources and morale of both sides. The horrors of trench warfare, with its constant shelling, mud, disease, and death, left lasting scars on a generation of young men. The psychological and physical toll of this brutal form of warfare was immense, shaping the lives of those who survived and the memory of those who did not. World War I witnessed a terrifying evolution in the technology of warfare, changing the face of battle forever. Machine guns, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, transformed battlefields into deadly killing fields. Their devastating firepower made offensive maneuvers incredibly difficult and contributed to the static nature of trench warfare. Poison gas, introduced by the Germans, added a new level of horror and fear to the battlefield. Chlorine, mustard gas, and other chemical weapons caused agonizing deaths and lingering painful injuries. The use of gas warfare, while effective, was widely condemned as barbaric and inhumane. Tanks, armored vehicles designed to break through enemy lines, were first deployed by the British in 1916. While their early versions were unreliable, tanks would eventually revolutionize modern warfare. Aircraft, initially used for reconnaissance, quickly evolved into powerful weapons of war. Dogfights between fighter planes and bombing raids on enemy targets added a new terrifying dimension to the conflict. Submarines, particularly the German U-boats, played a crucial role in the naval war. U-boats sank merchant ships, disrupting supply lines and bringing the war to the vast Atlantic Ocean. The technological innovations of World War I brought about unprecedented levels of death and destruction.